Emily Guy Birken. Welcome to Jewish Money Matters. It's such a pleasure to have you again on the show.
I am so happy to be here.
So Emily, I know we've talked a lot as, we're friends and colleagues, and we've talked about different of our different financial experiences. And only recently did I discover that you had some drama when it came to estate planning and things that I didn't expect coming from you, knowing how organized you are and knowing how your father was such a also very taught you very well. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, you experienced many things that served as a big eye opener. And you've shared this experience for people with the intention so people should do better. And
Mhm.
it definitely was a learning experience. So, why don't we start with, I guess, from the very beginning, the way you were raised with money, the way your father trained you. He was a financial planner. And
Mhm.
then what happened later in life?
So my dad was a financial planner, and so I grew up hearing about money things, and so my sister and I, would be regaled by my dad's money opinions, and I remember my sister's eyes would kind of glaze over, whereas I was very interested. So, I was the 10-year-old with opinions about how large your tax refund should be. Um, Dad would say things like, you should aim for a modest tax refund. That's the ideal situation. And I knew that a modest tax refund was $500 or less. Um, and then later on, he'd amend it with like, okay, yeah, there are some people who it's the only way they know how to save is by getting a big tax refund, and if that's what works for them, that's what works for them. But
Hmm.
you know, it's really just sending a interest-free loan to
To the
Uncle
government.
Sam
Right,
for
right,
for a year. Why would you do that? Better to aim for a modest refund, because that means you don't owe any money.
right.
So, these are things that I was having deep thoughts about as a very small child.
And that explains now why you've written so many. How many books, Emily? Six already or seven?
Five.
Oh, okay,
Five. Not
okay.
quite,
But I,
not
I,
quite what you think, but
I think you might be onto your sixth, and I hope it includes some of what we're going to talk about today.
so yeah, I had like deep thoughts about these things. I can remember Dad having strong opinions about things like life insurance.
Mm,
Dad would talk about how life insurance was for income replacements.
right.
And so what's interesting, my dad was a Gentile. Mom was
Uh-huh.
Jewish. It was interesting. Dad was Gentile. His My mom was Jewish. His second wife, my stepmother, was Jewish. Both of my dad's lifelong best friends were Jewish. He had a regular poker game with was at least one rabbi. I think there might have been two rabbis in his poker game. So, like, my dad was very culturally understanding of
Mm,
Judaism. He
yeah.
understood Jewish folks very, very well, and in a lot of ways, his viewpoints felt very Jewish, and his view of life insurance, I feel like, was very Jewish because I can recall his feelings about life insurance for children. He had very strong opinions that life insurance for children was a bad idea because to him it felt like it was like tempting fate.
Yeah. Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, and he was just like, no, 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 why would you do this? And that has always struck me as a very Jewish response.
But even
Um,
even without that, why would anybody do that? Children don't have any dependents.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. And that's that. So, and I can remember like he had this long conversation with that side of the family, the Gentile side of the family, about how, if God forbid something were to happen to a small child, there was, I think, Levinson's funeral home in Baltimore, which is a Jewish funeral home, had a policy that they would handle any child's funeral for
Mm-hmm.
free if you could not afford it. And
Right.
so there was this ethos that my dad had about money that kind of felt like it combined his understanding of money with a kind of Jewish understanding of the world.
Nice.
That even though he was my Gentile parent, it just made sense to me
That's so
and
interesting.
worked together to form how I look at the world and at money.
By the way, I know this is not the topic of our conversation but because you mentioned life insurance, I do have to ask you. So, term life insurance or whole life insurance? Where was he
Um,
holding?
um, I
Controversial topic.
so I have to tell you, I still don't know, and here's why.
Oh,
When my father passed away, my sister and I were beneficiaries of his life insurance because my father had always said that life insurance was for income
in-
replacement.
right.
I felt the most stress I've ever felt about money in my life was being the beneficiary of his life insurance. I was
Mm-hmm.
34 when he died. I was not dependent on his income.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that I had received this money
Mm-hmm.
felt very conflicting because you can't help but feel some kind of gladness for receiving a big chunk of money.
Interesting.
And so it felt like if I was happy or glad that I'd received that money, then that felt like I was glad he died, which I
Mm-hmm.
very much was not. And so I spent that time tying myself in knots, thinking that if it had been whole life insurance, which I'm sure he would have not been a fan of. I'm sure he
Right.
wouldn't have. But if it was
Okay.
whole life insurance, then I could be okay with the fact that I'd inherited it because I would have gotten it if he had lived. Because my dad was only 62 when he died. If he
Right.
had lived the proper amount of time, if we'd gotten the actual amount of time we should have gotten, then I could feel okay about having received it. Whereas if it was term life insurance, then yes, I needed to self-flagellate. So I very
Interesting.
specifically never found out.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I also should add that I was 4 months pregnant with my youngest, who was named for him when
Mm.
I died. So there, in addition to the grief, there were a lot of hormones involved.
Mm.
So my neuroses were turned up to 11.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was not at my most emotionally stable
Mm-hmm.
while I
Mm-hmm.
was having these thoughts.
Well, once you tell us the story, I don't know. I think anybody would be unstable with all the facts. So let's get to it. So what happens? Your father got sick. What exactly happened?
So in October of 2012, I got a call from my dad saying that he had passed out at work and had
Mm-hmm.
gone to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And they had taken, I think, an MRI, and they were concerned that there was something in his brain. I compartmentalized, and so I very quickly put that in a compartment of, I'm not going to worry about that. Um, Quickly became clear that he had what they were at that point calling a glioma, but it was a glioblastoma.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you your listeners may recall, if they follow American politics at all, that is the same kind of brain tumor that John McCain had. It is basically inoperable. If you get something like that, you have months.
Mm-hmm.
So that was in October of 2012. And he passed away on April 5th, 2013.
Wow.
So we did not get much time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so my dad, as I said, was 62 when he died. It was about 2 weeks before his 63rd birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my stepmother was 16 years older than my father.
Oh,
So, yes,
that's unusual.
yes.
Mhm.
And so it had never occurred to anyone that he would predecease her because of the age difference.
Aha.
So, in 2011, they had gone to Spain for vacation
Mm-hmm.
and they had put together a new estate plan right before they went to Spain, just in
Mm-hmm.
case the plane went down, or just in case something bad happened, which is
Okay.
often how estate plans end up happening. They often happen in a hurry like that because you're like, oh goodness, we need to something in place just in case something happens while we're traveling, just because something is happening. And I know that dad was not super happy with the estate plan they put together, but they were in a hurry. And their financial situation had changed since the last time they had put together a will, and they had become grandparents since the last time
Right.
they had put together a will. My elder son was born in August of 2010.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted to make sure, with the change in their financial situation, my dad had suddenly his net worth had gone up a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
He had been very comfortable, but his net worth had gone up to where he was worth $5.5 million dollars.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly what it was prior to that, but it was pretty serious jump. So
Mm-hmm.
they wanted to make sure they had that in place in case, God forbid, plane went down,
Mm-hmm.
or something.
Meaning
So
to say, what he had before, for some reason, he didn't feel it was solid enough to reflect what he would want now that his net worth was so much higher than when he drafted the first will.
exactly, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then they left it in place because they came back from Spain and you don't think about it. So it was, just a little over a year later, he gets this diagnosis of the glioblastoma.
Mm-hmm.
And so the will that they had in place, the estate plan, he had what's called a Q-tip trust.
What
Um,
was it called again?
Q-tip,
Okay.
and I qualified something. I don't remember what the TIP stands for, but qualified something.
Okay.
It's not an uncommon type of trust. It is basically how it works is the trust is set up so that when one member of the couple dies, the
Uh-huh.
other one has the right to live on the interest during their lifetime. And then the bulk of the trust then goes to their beneficiaries upon the death of the second spouse.
Uh-huh.
So it's a very common type of trust.
Which in
Um,
this case makes a lot of sense because with such a net worth, your stepmother would live very, very comfortably off of
yes,
interest without having to touch principal at all.
yes.
And then
So,
you guys would get the principal.
mhm, mhm.
Okay.
Yes. And so, just if the interest, if you're expecting 4% per year, on 5.5 million, that would be over $200,000 per year.
Right.
So, and then my stepmother has a daughter from a previous marriage. And
Okay.
so the 5.5 million would have been split between myself, my sister, and this daughter from the previous marriage.
Okay.
So we would each get, it would be something like 1.7 million.
Okay. So far sounds pretty ideal.
Yes. Yeah.
Everybody's gonna get a very nice chunk.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Part of how the estate plan was written that was less than ideal was that it was written that was not usual, was that the surviving spouse could dip into the principal to maintain their standard of living.
Mm-hmm.
That is not common. That is not a normal thing.
Uh-huh.
Um, and had things gone the way most of us assumed they would, because my stepmother was so much older than my father, if she had predeceased him, it wouldn't have mattered. Because my father could very easily have lived on much less than $200,000 per year.
Right.
He would not have needed more than that to maintain his standard of living. Um, but when my father passed away, um, my stepmother immediately began invading the principal
Mm-hmm.
and bragging about it all over Baltimore, which is where I'm from originally, that she was specifically disinheriting my sister.
Oh. Oh, was there like a personal vendetta
Oh,
situation
yes.
here?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So there was beef or something. Okay. So then this clause that you mentioned is unusual was put very intentionally, and it sounds like not necessarily by your father, but by her. And he kind of ignored it, assuming that it just doesn't matter. Like, no, right?
I honestly am not sure.
We
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure how that got in there. I know that my father was not happy with the lawyer. I know that my stepmother did not anticipate that she would outlive my father.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Now, I know, so my stepmother is a very small person in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
She is someone who equates money with love. She is, it's very strange to call a woman a misogynist, but she's very much a misogynist. If my sister and I had been sons instead of daughters, we would have a very different relationship. She was much kinder to my children than to my sister's child because I
Uh-huh.
have boys and my sister has a girl. And it's just a very she's got this very strange view of the world, and she was very jealous of any women
Right. I
in
was
my
gonna say.
father's orbit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and because she equates money with love, the idea that any money from my father that would come to me and my sister was just proof that dad didn't love her.
Mm.
Like, so she needed proof of my father's love,
Mm-hmm.
and
Especially
that
we're
for her
talking
was
about the
money.
principle, which in her mind, it's obviously it's so much bigger than the interest.
Yes, yes. So, and
This is where, sorry to cut you off, but this is
yeah,
where it's so interesting because when we talk about these things, it's not just dollars and cents, right? It's a psychology
hmm
of what is really happening here, the psychology of money.
yeah. And my dad knew this about her. Like
Mm.
none of this was a surprise.
Uh-huh.
And this is part of what like I was thinking before we, as I was, getting ready for this podcast chat. The time between when my father died and while all of this drama was happening helped me understand why what we say after someone passes away is may their memory be a blessing, because for 6 years after my father passed away his memory made me angry.
Oy,
I
oy.
wasn't able to grieve him because I was fighting with his widow when I didn't want to be fighting with her.
Right, right.
And I didn't want to be in this situation. And I was angry that my dad, who knew who she was and knew what she was like, and who could have protected me and my sister from this, and who in life he had multiple times made decisions that prioritized her jealousy over
Mm-hmm.
his daughters,
Mm,
had done this in death in a way that created a mess
mm-hmm.
for me and my sister to
Mm-hmm.
clean up. And
When you say that he knew how she thought about money and that she equated money with love, is it because you guys had had prior conversations about finances, about the way she you had prior conversations about this?
yes, I sometimes obliquely, sometimes a little more directly, but
Mm,
yes.
okay.
So for instance, when my sister and I were in college and like living on ramen noodles and things like
Yeah.
that, there was this expectation of how much we would spend on gifts for her for gift giving occasions, that sort of thing.
Oh.
Which, we don't have any money to spend.
Right. Right.
And the this expectation that we kind of fawn over any gifts she gave us because of how much she spent on them,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
when we would have been happier just having lunch,
Right.
because the money wasn't the thing that was important to
Mm-hmm,
us.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, so he clearly understood the psychology, what she needed to receive that validation, that
hmm
love. Yeah, okay.
hmm
Okay.
hmm
So now she is bragging all over Baltimore at the fact that she's dipping into a
Mhm.
very nice principle in a way that is actually harmful to the heirs of that money.
Mhm.
How do you guys even find out?
So the estate actually had two trustees.
Okay.
She was one, and the other was my father's best friend,
Okay.
lifelong best friend. And so the who had lived in Baltimore his entire life. And I referred to him as my uncle my whole life, so I'll just call him
Hmm.
my uncle.
Hmm.
And so one of the people she bragged to was my uncle's brother.
Oh, that's kind of silly.
I, so he called me and said, now he also, my uncle is, or unfortunately, he's passed away, but he's since passed away. But he called me when he, excuse me, learned. This was sometime around 2014 or early 2015.
Uh-huh.
So my father had been gone about it little over a year. Um, and he told me like this is what I've heard. I heard it from my brother, and then I have like kind of corroborated from other sources,
Uh-huh.
and I believe it to be true. Um, here's like, and because he was a trustee, he like had some information from that as well, and
Right. As
so
a trustee, he has access to the accounts, doesn't he? Or how does it work?
Um, so the thing is, my uncle didn't have any background in law or finance, and he's also pretty conflict averse.
Okay.
So he is one of the most, tr or was one of the most trustworthy and honorable men I've ever known,
Which is why he was chosen.
which was why he was chosen. But he didn't really have the know-how or the he was chosen for good reason because of his honor. He was not the right person
To
to
fight.
fight because my stepmother's a difficult person to deal with
Right.
when she's like, you really don't need to do this. Oh, that kind of thing.
Right.
She's a difficult person to handle.
Uh-huh.
And if you're, generally conflict averse, grieving the loss of your best
Right.
friend,
Right.
trying very hard to handle his widow, who you don't really like, but are trying very hard to be friends with for your best friend's sake and
Mm-hmm.
handle with kid gloves. It's my poor uncle was in a tough position.
Mm-hmm.
He was in
Mm-hmm.
a tough
Mm-hmm.
position.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the reasons why I truly believe that a corporate trustee is something that everyone should have. And corporate trustee, by that I mean someone who is like a lawyer, like a bank. It's someone who is unrelated.
Oh, so it's like an objective party.
Mhm. And because they have no skin in the game,
Uh-huh.
they are someone who are not going, there's no history, there's no background, there's no conflict aversion, there's nothing. If they're going to be like, no, we need double signatures on checks, and
Right.
you can at me all you want. That's the rule.
Right. Right. They're just gonna stick to the law. Whatever
Yeah.
is okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a great tip, actually. Never thought about it. Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it does make things more inconvenient, but they should be more inconvenient.
Mm.
So that is part of what was going on. Now, the other thing, and this is actually the only reason we had a legal leg to stand on, is my stepmother wasn't just buying things for herself. She was actually buying love by purchasing things for other people. And when I
Mm.
say purchasing things, they weren't trinkets. She was buying houses for people, houses, cars for people. She paid off someone's like huge IRS debt, like talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. She paid for
What?
$400,000 in landscaping for her daughter. Um,
That's insane.
I know. And so this is all, again, part of her psychology. She was trying to buy love.
You're finding out about these expenditures sort of in real time or way
Hmm.
after it's happened? Like, how does it work?
Basically in real time.
Uh-huh.
Um, and had I been the only person involved, I would have let it go.
Mm-hmm. But one
Be
second. So your uncle just didn't have the backbone to kind of stop it. He had the authority though, right? He had the legal power to say, "Hey, no, we can't be spending this money like this. This is not what it's intended for." Yet
Mhm.
he couldn't, he just didn't have the persona to do it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And now you're watching this happen, and you
Hmm.
just said something really interesting. Had it been only for myself, I would have just let it go.
Hmm.
Why?
And
Say more.
um, so uh, my stepmother has been in my life for as long as I can remember. So
Uh-huh.
my parents got divorced in 1982. I don't know because I have specifically chosen not to know, but she is somehow involved in the breakup of my parents' marriage. I don't know
Okay. Okay.
how. She didn't marry my father until I was 16.
But
My
they
father,
were together all that time.
not officially.
Okay.
They worked together. They had a financial planning business together all that time.
Oh, okay.
Uh, Something weird going on.
Right. We don't know. Uh-huh.
We don't know. Um, my stepmother has despised my mother. Again, I don't understand it. She's the one who ended up married to my father. And for a lot, my parents were only married for 10 years. And actually it was only really 9 years because they were separated for the last year of their marriage.
Right.
I have no memory of my parents' marriage. Like
Right.
I was 3 when they divorced and 2 when they separated.
Right.
Um, so this is a wound from so far back.
Right.
Um, the reason why my stepmother was specifically disinheriting my sister is because she is 3 years older than me and she remembers my parents being
Oh.
together. And also, she is the spitting image of my mother.
Mm.
And she would also like push back early on
Mm-hmm.
when, as a 5 and 6 year old.
Mm-hmm.
And my stepmother held a grudge for, I truly don't comprehend it. I don't
Right,
comprehend it.
right. But it makes sense. She was the older child, so she experienced your stepmother in your father's life as,
Mhm.
and that whole transition between your parents' marriage. And so there was definitely tension there. There was a strained
Hmm.
relationship already from very early on,
Hmm.
that I guess apparently did not get better over the years.
Yes. And in fact, like my parents' early divorce, I would say, was a model for how to handle divorce. Like, I feel like they did a fantastic job when I was a little kid.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Early on, they actually, when they were separated, um, my sister and I lived in our family home, and my parents moved in and out.
Uh-huh.
So that we would have stability and it wouldn't feel like
Oh.
dad lived in like this sad little bachelor apartment that we had to go visit.
Mm-hmm.
That was fantastic. And it was because they did research and like spoke to therapists and like they did a lot right. And it was
Mm-hmm.
when my stepmother came in as a parental figure that things really got bad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and especially like as we became adults,
Mm-hmm.
my sister and I. So, considering how old that wound is, and when my father married my stepmother, um, uh, he went to my grandmother, his mother, who couldn't stand my stepmother at any point.
Oh, there's so
And
many red flags here all
I
over the
know,
place.
I know.
Okay.
And so my grandmother, who liked to describe herself as a crazy old hillbilly, it's funny because I'm like aristocratic Russian Jewish on my mother's side and crazy old hillbilly Kentucky on my father's. So, so Dad went to my grandmother, and Dad and my stepmother got married in December, and said to her, and it was in November. He's like, "I'd really like to spend Thanksgiving with all the people I love in my life, including, my fiance, my daughters, and my mother." And my grandmother said, "Well, son, I sure will miss you." So this estranged him from his mother and sisters. Anyway, um, just to give you a sense of the drama.
Right,
So
right, right.
considering all this drama, I knew that money meant something to my stepmother that it doesn't mean to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it was not worth it to me to
Mm-hmm.
go into to fight her for something when I knew she was going to be like a cornered rat
Mm-hmm.
feral over this money. It doesn't mean that to me, and so it wasn't worth it to me to fight. Especially since this is a wound that has been festering since 1982, at
Mm-hmm.
least.
Mm-hmm.
And it was going to take me away from my children.
Meaning to say your energy and your focus.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
exactly.
So one second, did you know your father passes away? Are you aware of how much of an inheritance you're getting at that
Yes,
point? Oh, you
yes.
are very much aware of the number that we're talking
Mhm.
about. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And he had talked to us about what was in the estate plan. Like he had
Mm-hmm.
talked very openly about it. The one part of his estate plan that I was more willing to fight for. My dad was the oldest of three children. He had his middle sister who predeceased him, um, had been a nurse, and then his youngest sister it has cerebral palsy.
Mm.
And so he had specifically stated that $250,000 would go directly to me and my sister and he told us verbally that that was for us to take care of his youngest sister.
Wow.
Now, that's another one where it's just like, are you kidding me, Dad? Set up a special needs trust. Why would you do it this way?
Oh, there was nothing in writing. There was nothing. He just told
Uh-uh.
you guys?
Yeah,
That's
so
so unusual for
yeah,
him, for a person like
it's
him.
I know. And it's specifically stated in the like that this 250,000 comes to me and my sister,
Uh-huh.
but he had to verbally tell us what it was for.
Oh, so it doesn't even say in the will what it was
Mm-mm,
for.
mm-mm.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
So I don't know why he did it that way. Um, I
Hmm.
I do take a little comfort in the fact that he set up a Q-tip trust that meant that his wife was supposed to live off the proceeds. He didn't
Right.
just tell her what he wanted,
Hmm.
whereas he just told me and my sister what he wanted for that 250, so he trusted us.
Yeah.
So I take a little comfort in that, but
Right.
mm. So we ended up fighting for the money, my sister and I, for a couple of reasons. One, my stepmother has been abusive towards my sister her entire life, and it was important
Hmm.
to her to stand up for herself. And I was like, okay, I've got your back.
Mm.
So that's part of it. The other part of it is in 2016, my uncle was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Oh, wow.
And so he felt he needed to step down as trustee. And the way the estate was written, um, the successor trustees, if either trustee stepped down, were the three daughters. So myself, my sister, and then my stepmother's daughter. And so we just sent a letter saying, okay, we intend to step up as successor trustees because my uncle is stepping down.
Hmm.
And that is the point at which my stepmother just stonewalled everything. So we sent the letter saying we intend to step up, and she said no, which is like what do you mean no? This
What
is,
do you mean no? Like,
yeah. And she said, no, I refuse to have you step up. And I was like, that you can't do that. And
right.
then we said, okay, as successor trustees, you need to send us the accounts. And she said, no. And we said, you can't say no. And our lawyer and her lawyer made it clear to her, you must send the accounting, which is
Hmm.
the point at which, like, we knew that she was spending down the principal, but we didn't know how much. But that was the point at which we saw how little was left. And we said, because I don't remember what it was, but at that point it was like 1.5 million was left.
So within a span of two, how many years?
It was
Two
3 years at
years?
that point.
3 years, she spent $4 million?
Yeah.
Oh
And
my gosh.
And so we said, can we have some assurance that at least the 250, because that's all we wanted was the assurance that the 250 for our aunt will be there when you have passed away. And she said, no. And we said, okay, can you just give us the 250 right now? And she said, no. So at this point we went to mediation. Um, and the thing is, like,
Oh, you're too nice. You went to mediation? Like,
well, that's the next step. Like, that's the thing. Like, this is how the legal system works.
uh-huh.
You have to follow the steps. And
Uh-huh.
so the problem with the legal system and the problem with all of this is mediation assumes that everyone's there in good faith.
Right. But
She's
it's
not.
obvious not.
Yeah. And she stonewalled through mediation.
This is crazy. One second. I did not know this. So you can't just right away litigate this. Like you have to actually go through
You have to go through
mediation.
you have to go through
Oh my
mediation.
gosh. Okay.
And so you have to go through mediation before you can start, like, and then we sued. And the entire legal proceedings took about 2.5 years
Oh my gosh.
and cost over $80,000.
Okay. Wait. So this woman is spending money at a rate that it's like it literally like by the okay. She's spending all that money, and now you have to also foot this legal bill. How are you and your sister doing this? You're tapping into your savings, I'm
Mhm.
assuming.
Mhm. So yeah, and I I am weird about money. Like, I'm very good with money, but I've lately been trying to say, like, my brain is broken because
What do you
when I
mean?
tell people that I'm good with money, people are like, "Oh, I should try to be like you." I was like, No. Like, my brain is broken. Like, this is not something to aspire to. I am like, the way that I do money is not something that everyone can do. And it's not something that anyone should aspire to necessarily. It's just the way that my brain works.
Why? What would you describe it as?
Uh, it's a type of obsessive compulsive disorder almost.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
well, it's more, excuse me. So I have ADHD and money is my hyperfixation,
Okay.
is really what it is. I spend probably 2 to 2.5 hours a week organizing my money.
Uh-huh.
And, like, the thing that I want to make clear is that is not something that everyone should have to do to get
Oh, I'm
ahead
so
with
glad you
money.
told me.
That is not something that everyone should have to do. It just happens to be what I do, and it's my happy place.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so I just want to
Look, some
specify
people
that.
spend their Sunday meal planning.
Yeah,
You spend 2.5 hours organizing your money. That's
yeah.
fine.
So part of what I do is I do, like, kind of a targeted savings.
Uh-huh.
So I put I think it's about $200 a month aside for summer camp for the kids. So that I know that
Beautiful.
I know that I'll have money set aside for when it's time to sign them up for camp, because
Right.
we all know how expensive that is.
We sure do.
So I put aside $350 per month
We
in
should
a
all follow Emily on that one, guys. Okay.
I put aside $350 per month in a new car fund.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of like a reverse car payment. So
Mm-hmm.
that when it comes time, when our cars give up the ghost, we have enough set aside that we can
Buy a car.
buy a car. So things like that. And I try to look ahead for anything that I might have to spend a big chunk of money on and
It sounds
plan ahead
wonderful
for
to
that.
me, Emily.
So I think that it's great if you can do that. I think that it's great if you can do that. I just want to specify, like, if you can't, there's something wrong with you.
Okay, it's true. It's very sweet of you to say it's true. But I do think like if you have the income, right, and
Hmm.
you have the ability to be as
Hmm.
organized with your income,
Hmm.
it's a great place to be. Now, many people don't have that stability of income
Hmm.
that they can like
Yes.
literally put, so that's where it gets a little trickier. Okay.
Yes. So, so that's just that caveat.
Okay.
So I have been doing that for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have all of these savings accounts, and that's how I paid for it.
Mm,
So I would take like a little bit here, a little bit there from each of these targeted savings accounts, and tried to do it in ways that wouldn't affect our family budget.
right.
And the lawyer would send a bill every 2 weeks, and so my sister and I would try to split it. My sister was making a good living. My husband and I make a good living. And so I'd try to pay what I could from like our income. If I couldn't, I'd take from those targeted accounts. This is again where my brain is broken. I kept track of where the money came from for every single thing because my
Mm-hmm.
intention was that we would get repaid so
Right.
I could put everything back, but
Right.
because
That
it
makes
felt like I was
sense.
dismantling what I had built over years.
Right. Right. That makes sense.
Um, but yeah, we part of what this experience frustrated me about was the fact that we were in a position to fight. We
Mm-hmm.
had the ability to spend this money and continue this fight.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, our stepmother actually told our lawyer, I'm just going to outspend them. That was just her plan.
That's horrible.
And that is often, I am certain, like I'm not even certain, I know that
Mm.
is often just how these sorts of estate inheritance theft situations go. Whoever has
Mm.
the money just wins because
Mm-hmm.
they can outspend the person who doesn't.
Mm-hmm. But how could such a thing drag for so long when it's so clear? I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but like it isn't it very clear that she can't be doing that? She cannot be tapping into the principal.
It's it took that 2.5 years until we got in front of a judge.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And because her lawyer wouldn't even tell her no, because her lawyer was so like it was very clear her lawyer couldn't stand her.
Uh-huh.
But he also like when I say like my uncle didn't know how to stand up to her, he was not alone in that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like she over, 80 years, and now I mean she's nearly 90 at this point, had learned how to get her way by
Mm-hmm.
being
Mm-hmm.
unbearably unpleasant.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so even her lawyer didn't know how to say to her, you need to stop. This is
Mm-hmm.
not going well for you
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
of the way that she had just learned to manipulate situations and be unpleasant and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so like her lawyer could have stopped it at any point. And it wasn't that he wanted to continue with this. Our lawyer, so her lawyer was an older man, our lawyer was a young woman,
Mm-hmm.
and she made the like the strategic decision to kind of befriend him.
Okay.
And so he would be like, "Oh man, I gotta like put padding up in my office before she comes."
Oh my
Like
gosh.
because it feels like this is a madhouse when she's
Uh-huh.
here. And like he would say that. We ended up when we got in front of a judge. It was for something called a settlement conference, which is the last step before you go to trial.
Uh-huh.
So, her lawyer, his mother was very ill. And so we had to schedule the settlement conference, and it had to be in person. This was in 2019, so prior to COVID. So since then, I probably could have done it on Zoom, but I had to fly into Baltimore, and like the scheduling was tough. And for the my stepmother's lawyer's mother was on her deathbed, and so there was some concern about whether or not he would need to reschedule. And
Mhm.
so we get there and we found out that his mother had passed away that very morning, and he
Oh
left his
my.
mother's deathbed to come to the settlement conference so he would no longer have to deal with my stepmother.
Oh, oh, so
That's
he
how much he
really,
couldn't stand her.
oh my.
So just to give you a sense of how difficult this woman is.
Right, right, right.
So
I
I,
want to correct something I said before, Emily, because I just looked back. I said she can't be touching the principal, but she really that's the sad part here. She really is able to touch the principal
mhm,
because of that
mhm,
unusual clause, right? The
mhm,
question here is to what extent? What is her standard of living? And that's what legally could be argued. Your standard
mhm,
of living is, $200,000 a year or 250 or
mhm.
150, you can argue that, but therefore you cannot be taking 1.5 million per year,
Hmm.
right? And that's what nobody was able to do with her, I guess.
Hmm. And the thing is, like, it wasn't her standard of living because she was buying things for other people.
Right, but couldn't you measure what her standard of living was prior
And
to his death, to your father's
we
passing?
we did. I mean, like there was we offered examples at different points, like there were depositions and things like that, because there were time we gave examples of times where our father was like, we're not spending that on
Right.
that.
Right.
Um, and the thing is, it doesn't matter because like by the time you get to the legal system, if the money's gone, the
The
money's
money's
gone.
gone. The
Yeah.
money's gone.
And because of how she spent the money, we were also in this bind because if we had decided to go to trial, and she was ordered to pay the money back to the trust, it might have meant having to claw the money back from some of the people she had bought things for. And we
Sell
had,
properties and like
yeah.
all sorts of.
Well, and so she had bought a house for her longtime house cleaner. And we had no interest in like that poor woman having to give up her house. Like,
This is a
like,
bad soap opera.
yeah, oh gosh, yeah, this is a telenovela. I mean, like,
Total telenovela, but like the bad ones. Okay.
and so like, so there were things like that where like she shouldn't have done that. She should not have bought that woman a house. Um, I don't think that woman should necessarily have accepted a house from her, but I also don't think that that woman should have had to deal with working for her for 30 years either. And like, and whatever, like I personally would be very uncomfortable accepting a house from someone, but that's my ethos, whatever. And like, I have no interest in forcing a third party to give up a house.
Right.
I have no
Right.
interest in that.
Right.
So that was the another aspect of it. Um, and so it's we're like also in this bind where it's basically like do you know Calvin Ball from Calvin and Hobbes?
Holland and Hobbs, yes, of
Yeah.
course.
So like if we're playing Monopoly and she's playing Calvin Ball and knocking over the board, like what do you do?
What do you do? Right, right, right. So now it's 2019. You're standing in front of the judge, and all you want is to at least get your 250,000 to take care of your aunt. So what happens now?
So we get to the judge. Now one of the things that my sister had said was that she would love to have someone in authority tell our stepmother, like, this is wrong.
Hmm.
It was early on. And that happened. And to the point where actually, so with the settlement conference, The way it works is the different parties go in with their lawyer to the judge's chamber and like back and forth and back and forth. And after the first time our stepmother went into the judge's chamber, the judge told her lawyer, "Don't let her back in. You're coming in by yourself."
Wow.
Yeah. So, um, the judge made it clear that if we decided to go to trial, we could get the 1.7
That
each
was left.
that we are supposed to have.
Oh, okay. Were there
I I don't
3.4
remember
million
what was
dollars there?
left. Yeah.
Okay.
Or but
Okay.
we could get more than what we were currently asking for. We
Okay.
yeah. Um at that point uh we were exhausted. Like
Mm-hmm.
we were exhausted by the fight. I was tired of being angry at my dad. Um I just wanted it to be over.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to I didn't want to go to trial, and neither did my sister. Um, but I was damned if I was going to not go home with the amount of money that we'd spent on legal fees.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so we said that we said we were not leaving with anything less than 350,000.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would cover the 250 for the special needs trust. Um, it ended up being like $84,000, I think, total in legal fees.
Mm-hmm.
And then there would be about 16,000 remaining that would
Mm-hmm.
cover, we would have a little bit more in legal fees to set up the special needs trust to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
was all set. And then there would be a little bit left over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And our stepmother tried to haggle.
This is
And
incredible.
yeah, and we said no. She asked if we could do 300, and we said no. And she said 325, and we said no.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
finally she agreed to the 350.
That's crazy.
And then that was the end of it.
So from a net worth of 5.5 that you and your sister each were supposed to get 1.7, you ended up with a broken heart, shattered in pieces, and $350,000.
Of which I got 8,000.
Right, exactly. And you were able, thank God, to take care of your aunt as your father had asked of both of you.
Mhm.
Now, what was I know you're very close with your sister. This must have also been a very tense and trying time between the both of you. Were you always on the same page? Were there conflicts along the way between the two of you?
Um, we were always on the same page. There
Hmm.
were times when I was tired and kind of was like, oh, is this worth it? And there were times when she was tired and was kind of like, is this
Okay.
worth it?
Uh-huh.
But there was never a point where we were upset at each other.
Okay, thank God. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
When, let's see, I was, I think 23 and she was 26, somewhere around there. Our grandmother on our mother's side passed away. And we
Hmm.
saw how the dynamics between our mother and her two sisters could be kind of painful
Hmm.
after like a parent's death. And like I remember us looking at each other going like, I don't ever want to treat you that way. I don't
Hmm.
ever want that to come between us. And so um that I think was really important to us is that like we always have each other's back.
Hmm.
Um so like making sure knowing that she is more important than money, than like stress or anything like that. And so there were times when like I kind of wanted to give up, but knowing that it was important to her, there were times when she wanted to give up. And I was like, you know what, I'm in it right now. And I think we should keep going. But always our love for each other and our feeling like it's so hard to know because dad's not here. It's so
Right.
hard to know because we know he loved us. We know he was incredibly proud of us, but he also chose this very small, broken woman to be
Mm-hmm.
his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And she made him happy, I think. I don't know. Like the thing is, he didn't marry her until we were basically out of the nest.
Mm.
And he was a nurturer, so like I think he wanted someone small and kind of broken to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. So we think that we would have made him proud, but we made ourselves proud. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you fought a very difficult fight and you did it so elegantly and you dealing with people who are not as elegant, obviously. Now you know so much about money mindset. Does your sister have a similar money mindset like you and she has the same similar habits?
we are very similar in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
I think it's tough to be my sister. It's one of the reasons why I say like, no, my brain is broken. Because she'll be like, I'm not as good with money, or I'm not very good with money. I'm like, no, you're like 90th percentile. You just happen to be my sister, so you think you're
She
not.
is. She's really, I mean, I can't
She's
think of anybody better than you, but okay, tell me
yeah,
about
so
your
she's
sister.
so she's very good with money, but she doesn't think she is because she's like standing next to me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So but I think so she recognizes like that money doesn't mean things to her that it does to our stepmother.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so for her, it wasn't about the money so much as standing up for ourselves.
Right. Right.
And then it was in terms of money mindset, it was also about um, wanting to have the legacy that dad intended.
Yeah, that I was gonna say it has a lot to do with, what he wanted. His
Hmm.
intention was not that people should get new landscaping and houses, and no, he loved you guys. It was for his
Hmm.
children.
Hmm. Yeah, and so I think that was part of it as well. Um, uh, but and that for me is part of what was so tough about this entire process. Is like if you've ever been part of any kind of legal issue,
Mm-hmm.
whatever your intentions are kind of gets overridden by the legal process because it is so draining and overwhelming. Like
Mm-hmm.
anytime I read about someone who has taken something all the way up to the Supreme Court, I am in awe
Right.
because it's got to be the most horribly draining
Yeah,
process.
it's stamina to the nth potent power. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was something that was difficult for my husband to understand because and it's funny because I think of myself as the optimist and him as the pessimist. And he kept it like, well, you're in the right. Like, I don't understand. You should and keep fighting.
Oh,
And I totally get where he's coming from because we were in the right. But I
right.
was also kind of the realist. I'm like, it doesn't mean we're gonna win.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean
Right.
the law is gonna be on our side, it doesn't mean the legal process is gonna be on our side. And so I would focus more on like my energy levels. My
Right.
energy levels are not up to the slog necessary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also, like, money's a finite resource, and she's spending it way faster than the law
Yeah. A
works.
100%. In a way, I hear the story and I say, thank God that you and your sister had the resources. You talk about those savings accounts and you had both had incomes and to even get to the point that you got to. Some people don't even have
Mhm.
don't have to do to fight this.
Oh, yeah. I think, honestly, I think most people don't.
Mm-hmm.
I have written multiple times about inheritance theft. And because of that, I get these heartbreaking messages and comments of people saying for much smaller amounts, like, oh, there's a $30,000 life insurance benefit that, somehow ended up in someone else's hands, or, I was supposed to inherit $15,000 and like, what do I do? And, with amounts like that, which would be life-changing for a lot of people,
Right.
it's it's so small that there's almost nothing you can do, because like even just getting a lawyer on retainer, it cost $1,000 to retain a lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that is where it just, one of the reasons why I want to tell this story to as many people as possible is to make it clear how easy it is for your intentions to go awry, for someone to steal the money that is intended for someone else after you die. And why, what I tell people when they are doing any kind of estate planning is to ask the question, how could this go wrong?
Mm.
And especially if you're able to sit down with an estate attorney when you are drawing up your estate plan, when you're drawing up your
Mm.
will, say like, okay, looking at this, how could someone like avert my wishes? How could someone do something against my wishes based on how this is written? And how can we fix that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's very smart.
And it's very hard to say like that you don't trust the people in your life,
Mm-hmm.
because, my dad knew who his wife was and he wanted to trust her. Although I suspect a lot of this came from the fact that it didn't occur to him that he'd die first. Um, but, and then by the time he knew he was going to die first, he had a brain tumor, which potentially that could have opened up if he changed the will afterwards, someone, there might have been a way to contest the will because he wasn't
Right.
thinking clearly because of his
Mm-hmm.
tumor.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if it makes it easier, you can imagine like, well, will this person be trustworthy after a traumatic brain injury?
Mm.
So, because anyone could have a traumatic brain injury and that might change the way that they do things. And so that way you can say like, it's not that I don't trust you, it's that anything could happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, the other thing, and this I do want to say, because I truly do believe like we all carry the spark of Hashem. I do not like my stepmother. She did love my father as much as she is capable of loving people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she was distraught when he died. And I tend to think of grief as a desiccant, like like, and you become who you are, like you're the concentrated version of who you are, because
Mm.
all of the water comes out because
Mm.
of your tears. And so she became the most concentrated version of herself. Um,
So interesting you say that because money is a little bit like that too,
mhm,
right? Money amplifies like
mhm,
how your real nature in a way.
mhm, mhm.
Uh-huh.
And so there's, as much as I don't like her, there is within her, there is something within her.
Mm-hmm.
There is
Mm-hmm.
there is uh, a love within her for my father that brought him comfort or joy or something that
Mm-hmm.
I am grateful for,
Right.
because he had a tough life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's worthwhile. Um, and she was trying to cling on to whatever she could
Mm-hmm.
and she just doesn't have the complexity to find other ways.
Yeah.
And that's someday I will be able to feel sorry for her for that.
Yeah. It's such an eye-opening story because as we said at the beginning, it's almost like if this could happen to, again, a person like your father, who
Mhm.
was so careful, who really worked hard to build his wealth, to have everything done right, to educate his children, to people like you and your sister who also have done everything, right financially. It could happen to all of us
Mhm.
in a way, obviously it was the will of God and there's the hand of God for whatever reason, this is what had to happen. Um, and yet it's a learning experience for all of us, for you, for your children going forward, for everybody who listens to the story. And there's that balance of we have to do all the right things as much as we can, and we have to learn from these experiences. And then there's the we let go and we say, okay, this is what God wanted. I
Mhm.
did the best I could, right? I fought the fight. I did as
Mhm.
much as I could with my sister, I had all the best intentions. And for some reason, this just wasn't meant to be exactly the way my father would have had planned it, actually.
Mhm. It's in some ways it feeds into my money psychology a little bit
Mm-hmm.
better.
Mm-hmm.
I struggle to accept money that I didn't earn.
Oh.
And so I want very badly to honor my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so my dad loved little kids. I didn't know when I was young that it was unusual for dads to like wave at babies and stuff. Like I thought every dad did that. Um, and then my dad, obviously cared very deeply about financial literacy. And so receiving this money from my dad, I know I would feel extremely conflicted about it because
Mm-hmm.
it would feel like it wasn't my money.
Mm.
Um, and so I had had this thought that, if I received this from him eventually, I wanted to create a children's museum exhibit on financial literacy
Oh my God, that
because
sounds amazing.
it would combine the two things that he cared very deeply about, about kids
Mm-hmm.
and money. And so this has kind of given me a kind of a third component, which is like he was so proud of me and my sister.
Mm-hmm.
He was so like he loved being able to brag about what we had done. So this gives me an opportunity to like kind of rise to the challenge to earn that money to be
Mm.
able to create that museum exhibit. And so I've kind of given myself the personal challenge to be worth the same amount of money when I turn 62.
Wow. You see, Emily, you're just so cool. I'm sorry. You keep saying things about what did you call yourself? Broken money? What did you say?
My brain is a little broken.
Oh, brain is broken. None of that. I'm sorry. I totally disagree. You're just like the coolest person. Yes, this is so amazing to have that mission, that goal, because this is really a way to honor your father. And I'm
Uh,
sure your sister's in on board with you,
oh
right?
yeah, absolutely. When my sister, she worked in museums for many many years, so she's got the
Oh
inside
my
track on how
gosh.
to do this.
Oh, this is a great team.
Yeah.
This is a great team. Well, I have to ask you as we're wrapping up, of your books, which one was your dad's favorite?
He died before I wrote my first one.
What?
Yeah.
No, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. I can't
That
believe it.
So
So
yeah,
you
I
didn't
got
write your first book till what? Till 2014?
2013, 2013.
Oh,
So
so in the
I
middle of all this, you're also writing books?
yeah, so
Okay, you're
I
not normal. I'm sorry.
I
This is
got
not the definition of a broken brain.
um I let's see. I visited my dad in March of 2013 and I'd gotten the email offering me the opportunity for the 5 years before you retire.
Right.
And I'd mentioned it to him in March of 2013. And so I got the official offer as I was coming home from his funeral in
Oh
April.
my gosh. Oh wow. Wow. That feels like a little bit like he kind
It,
of sent you that.
yeah, it was writing it. was a bit surreal because if he had been alive, I would have been calling him every 20 minutes with
I
questions.
figured, right?
And in some ways, I feel like he would have been even prouder of me for doing it without having him on speed dial.
Interesting. Wow. Wow. So do you think there's a book on inheritance theft in you?
It's something I've definitely thought about, and it's something I like kind of veer away from and come back to.
Mm-hmm.
It is something I've definitely thought about, possibly as a larger book on financial abuse.
Mm.
Yeah, I kind of took a break from writing books for a little while, and so we'll see what 2026 has to bring.
Well, I think there's a book there and a much needed one. I don't think it's a topic that's dealt enough,
Yeah.
and I think you have and in the way it's usually dealt, it's kind of like dry and boring. And I know you're not
Mhm.
dry and boring. Emily, if you could wrap it up for us and kind of like I'm sure you've thought of these, like knowing the story and know the things that go wrong. Like if you could give us like, a few things like guys, if you when you're planning your estate, like do these things. Like what
hmm
are the highlights of okay, at least let me take care of these the basics.
hmm So, update your beneficiaries. Um,
Ooh, yes.
yeah, because people will often forget to do that. So, update your beneficiaries. I'd say check like every 2 to 3 years. Um, and for things like life insurance and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's for like, when you do, if you have a traditional job, if you've got HR, open enrollment, that's a good time to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, when it comes to like traditional estate planning, so for like wills, and that sort of thing, that you want to, and I say this, and I am a terrible hypocrite because we have not updated our will in a very long time. But you want to try to update your will like once every 5 years or so.
Yeah.
Come back and take a look at it. And if you ever have to do a will in a hurry, like because you're going on vacation or something and you're not super happy with it, come back to it when you come back from vacation.
Yes.
Um,
Very important.
when you are looking at your will, um, make sure that you are looking at it with an eye to how could this be thwarted? How could my wishes be thwarted? Um, and ask the estate attorney
Uh-huh.
how it could be thwarted. And if and I'm going to blank on the difference, but there are the attorney who draws up a will is not necessarily the same attorney who handles probate. So you might need to take it to an attorney who handles probate and say, like, what have you seen go wrong with these kinds of wills?
Oh, I did not do that. I hadn't thought of that.
So that might be something that you want to do.
Interesting.
So never have just one person in charge of money.
Uh-huh.
So if you've got any kind of trust, make sure that there's someone else. So there's at least two people, and preferably some sort of corporate trustee. So like a bank, a lawyer, something like that. It will be inconvenient, but that's kind of the point.
Mm-hmm.
So now when it comes to things like special needs trusts, so for instance, I am the financial trustee for my best friend's special needs trust for her son.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means that, I will be making financial decisions for his trust if, God forbid,
If she's not there.
she's not there. But I am not there in person because it's in a different state. So, there are certain layers where you do need some convenience,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to be able to know what's available that will protect the the vulnerable individual or
Mm-hmm.
the needs of the person, and what's going to actually allow the money to flow
Mm-hmm.
when it needs to flow.
Mm-hmm.
And these are questions like that you can ask, you know, the lawyer. If it's something like special needs trust, you can talk to like social workers and things like that. What's helpful, what's not.
Hmm.
These are difficult questions because you don't want to think about not being there, but the goal is don't leave a mess behind and don't leave something that could be a mess behind.
Right.
And so it's like the greatest gift you can give your family
Hmm.
is to create something that is going to work.
Yeah. 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 I agree. This is just financial adulting.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is what it is. And if we're adults, enough of adults to have families and dependents, and we just have to take care of these things. They're annoying,
Hmm.
but yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I just had a story, a friend suddenly passed away. And
Oh,
again, she had
sorry.
told him so many times to update his different accounts to make her a beneficiary. And it wasn't ill-willed. It's just, life gets busy and he hadn't done it. And she's European and he's American. So it's even more complex. And,
Hmm.
it's just
Hmm.
things that headaches that it all gets sorted out. But like, it's just an added headache when you're
Hmm.
grieving and mourning and like you said about the wills, like we change. We have more children. We also might change in our thinking of who should take care of our children or who could be
Hmm.
the executor of the will. Like so we should I just recently went through this. We updated our will, so we had to like kind of rethink and we changed certain things in the will.
Hmm.
You know, because we change over time. So thank you, Emily, for all these incredible bits of wisdom and for sharing your story, a very powerful story. And I'm all for number one, a book and a museum. Hello, a children's museum about with exhibit for financial literacy. I think it's amazing. I love that you have that goal in mind. And please come back again.
I will, absolutely.
Thank you so
Thanks so
much.
much.